Josh Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Happy to be here.
How's your day been?
The days, it's terrible weather outside, isn't it? So I've been stuck inside all day. So it's been okay. I trained this morning, went into work, went to the office until around about lunchtime, and then headed on over here. So all good so far.
Were you outside when it was like literally
No.
pitch black?
I was in the office, but it was just like 9 p.m. at night, essentially.
that was mental. We were all training. We opened the door. We were like,
No.
what's happening outside? Josh, I guess a bit of an introduction as to who you are. I'll start with a very simple version and you can elaborate as needed. But you are the co-founder of 1PT and Nutrition Kitchen. In my own words, how I describe 1PT, you're a personal training organization. You have 2 facilities, I believe, now in Hong Kong.
Yeah, 2 in Hong Kong and 1 in Singapore.
One in Singapore.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of your reputation is around the idea of transformations. And you are also the co-founder of Nutrition Kitchen, which is a food delivery service that our good friend Al 2.0
Lifesaver
enjoyed for his first 4 weeks in Hong Kong. So tell us a little bit more, firstly, about those 2 organizations and what you guys do.
Yeah, I'll probably start with 1PT first. So yeah, like you said, it's a personal training company. We established in 2017 in June. Actually started off with me and 2 buddies who I used to work with at my previous job, which was actually Ultimate Performance. So similar type of concept, body transformations is our sort of angle. Look, it's a passion really. This is where, I was big on rugby growing up, sort of started to lift weights as I grew up in sort of like 16 to 18 and really just sort of got fully invested into that space. When I left university, it was a direct route for me just to get into the health and wellness space, and PT was the obvious choice. My brother-in-law, I think you know Pete, was in the space, and he introduced me to UP, and sort of ever since there, I've just sort of always had the dream of setting up my own shop, wherever a business would be. My dad's an entrepreneur himself, so I sort of used him as my guide growing up, sort of working for yourself and taking control of your own life. And I think that's really sort of where my drive came from to set up my own shop and see what I could do. I didn't ever want to sort of follow too many rules. I just wanted to sort of take control of my own time and see what I could grow. And PT, it's my wheelhouse. It's what I've been training is what I've been doing my whole life. And it was just the obvious choice. And I think I learned enough during that sort of year and a half, 2 years at my original job, and just wanted to give it a go. And Hong Kong is a great place. I think you can set up a business and make things work because the community around you, and things go viral, not viral, but things like word of mouth really does spread quite well. So that's one personal training. And Nutrition Kitchen, it's interesting. We're in the PT space back in 2015, me and Pete again, just looking at our customers and understanding what the pain points were. And as you know, obviously nutrition is like a huge part of the problem. Obviously they come into your gym 2 to 3 times a week. Those 3 hours are looked after, but what they do on the outside essentially dictates what the success looks like. Hong Kong, always a little bit behind the trends. And in the UK, there was a company that we looked at, which was doing meal plans. Actually, a company called Fresh Fitness Food. I think they are sort of London sort of premium meal plan. And we just thought maybe there's something that we could do in Hong Kong. So looked at the market, saw that wasn't really much going on. We built out a menu, found a chef. It's literally crazy. I literally thought we were just going to be working with one chef and just one delivery guy. And initially it was very small production, but we found like a third party to execute our menu, so we didn't actually invest in a kitchen at all. But yeah, massive learning curve, like that sort of whole first year. But essentially just providing a solution to a problem to our PT clients, and it's grown into something much larger than I thought it could be. I think the last 2 to 3 years especially has been really good to us. But the first 5 years of business, we were sort of organically growing, understanding the customer a little bit more, not looking to scale aggressively, and just finding out what the solution was to the customer. So yeah, it's really sort of, they go hand in hand, these 2 businesses. That obviously PT was like set everything up, but yeah, we're here today, and I think one's 6 years old and the other one's about 8 years old now. So it's getting on now, you know.
What was it as a youngster and like seeing your dad as an entrepreneur and a businessman that really made you want to pursue it? And did you think at school you had skill sets that would allow you to be a successful entrepreneur?
I think I definitely wasn't the most academic person. I definitely didn't apply myself enough. I don't think my family was like known to be the smartest or the dumbest, but they're just sort of standard, you know. And I was definitely below standard. I think most of my interests were on the sports field, and I think in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, I feel like I could. I mean, it's cliche, but I was captain of my team for a few years, and I feel like I had leadership skills in that capacity. In terms of business, you never really know until you get into the weeds of it, like if you're really made for it. I think even when you start the business, you don't know. You're just taking a punt. And then as you go on, you feel like, okay, I understand the inputs of this business to make it grow. I understand what initiatives, what strategy looks like to make it grow. And I think that's what I've definitely learned as I've gone. I've met the right people down the line to guide me. But growing up, I think looking at my dad, I think that was just the standard for me. I didn't really want to go to a 9-to-5 job every day in London, earning probably okay money, but at the same time, just not being fulfilled. I think a big part of my sort of hunger and sort of drive has been looking at friends who got into the banking sector and got good jobs out of university thinking they've nailed it. And a big part of my drive when I was 21 years old was like, I'm going to show you that that's not the only way to go, you know? I think that's why I left London, is because like everybody left university and they were just joining the rat race, and it was like, oh, I got a job at Citi, I got a job at HSBC, and I was like, number one, I'm not going to get these jobs. I'm not built for it. I'm nowhere near, but I am good at something and I'm going to make it work. And you may look at me now like I'm just some sort of standard PT working in Kensington. That's what I was doing at the time. But that was my drive to make something of myself. I feel like I just want to show you that there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know? So.
What can you tell me about the sizes of your two businesses? 'Cause I feel like you've just massively underplayed both of them, and kind of paint this picture that these small businesses, but 1PT is like, you know, you're always on the lookout for new potential spots across the world. And I think Nutrition Kitchen is plus all over my social media every single day, as is 1PT. So like, give us an idea of like the scale of these businesses now.
In terms of like session count or dollar amount, like
whatever in layman terms is the easiest way to understand what you're doing.
Sorry to interrupt that. The legality of doing sort of food delivery. Did you have any, you said you were a bit of a learning curve. Was there any hurdles to overcome with when you have to actually make food and deliver it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we work with third parties to actually produce the meals. So in terms of like sticking to standards, that was already in place. Delivery is the whole new kettle of fish. We started with one delivery guy, a guy called Cammy. Poor guy. Like, we literally thought he could just go down the MTR line just delivering bags, and he nearly sacked it off after North Point. I think the kitchen was like in Taiku or something like that. So day one was interesting, but yeah, no, huge learning curve. Like I guess like when we first started, we started with 30 customers, I think. At our peak.
And were they your personal training customers?
Yeah, personal training customers, PT trainer, PTs, and just referrals from PTs as well. So I think it was 30 customers of people just throwing us in, like our friends and family and stuff like that. But I guess at our peak in Hong Kong alone, we were doing around about, say, from 30 customers to around about 3,000 a day in Hong Kong, which turns out sort of works out to be about 6,200 meals in Hong Kong a day. Yeah, that was at our peak. Not currently there right now because Hong Kong reopenings have been a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of growth trajectory we had. If I'm gonna, I won't put a dollar amount next to it just because it sounds a bit shit. I don't want to be that guy. But for 1PT, we started with around about 60 sessions a week in 2017, middle of 2017, and we're currently running at around about 1,100 sessions a week in Hong Kong. And then we're about 600 a week in Singapore as well. And then Nutrition Kitchen Singapore does around about 2,500 meals a day, roughly. It's been up to 3,000 before, but it's really challenging right now. Sort of the landscape in Asia, just reopening sort of people, revenge travel for our type of product. But we see that settling down in the last quarter of this year. But it's good to sort of align on what's the fundamentals of business, profitability of the business, rather than just scale. Like, we've always been profitable. Last year was a bit more challenging with food costs rising and stuff like that. But yeah, it's things really grew for us over the last 3 years. across both businesses. And I think meeting the right people has definitely helped that. But I think you can't sell a average product, you know. So although we did have a little bit of a slower start for both businesses, I think finding product market fit was important and understanding what the market wanted to then add more fuel to the fire in terms of your obviously spending on your marketing, but just understanding how to scale the business essentially. But yeah, so in terms of size, I think those stats should give you an idea.
Well, I mean, where do you now put your energy into? Like, you've got two big businesses.
Yeah.
Where is your head at? Where's your love at? Where's your passion at? Where does your time and energy go into?
My love is still in the PT business, I think, just because it's, like I said, it's my history, it's my wheelhouse. The food business is so complicated. There's so many customers you got to deal with. It's food as well. It's subjective. Some people will love your food, some people will hate it. But there goes from the menu development side of things. Like, menu development is not just coming up with an idea of what meals to make. It's, okay, how does it fit into a nutritional sort of profile, but also how does it fit our cost parameters? And cost parameters is like material cost of the actual ingredients, labor cost of producing the meals and assembling the meals. And then there's like logistics. It's so many different factors to this business to make it work that it requires a lot more of my time for sure. I mean, the PT business, I think what I did from day one, and I think I learned this from UP probably, is just build your structures extremely strong and sort of build to scale rather than just cruising and making up as you go. You just got to build structures, act like your trainers don't know what they're doing completely. You know what I mean? Like make it so idiot proof that they can follow and learn and get good within a month. You know, like, I don't hire anybody who's just like jumped into the industry, but at the same time, I do like to hire people that will follow what I'm putting out in front of them and sort of follow it to a T, because it's a proven method that works. But it definitely built our structures of our programming, nutrition, sort of communication with our customers in a way that is sort of that scaled and allowed us to teach all these guys that we have. I think we have about 70 trainers across both markets now, and still it's a very similar framework to what we had from day one. And I just put so much time and effort into that structure hasn't really failed us. For sure, it needs updating every now and then, just iterations, as you know. But yeah, the PT business requires a lot less of my mind share, for sure, because like you said, like last year, the external influences of Hong Kong, like everybody leaving Hong Kong in like April, so returning customers were down, food costs rising, like trying to offset all these problems last year for the food company was challenging. But I think, like I said to you earlier, the food company is something we want to try and build for an exit over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. 1PT is just such a great company that I enjoy going to every single day and working with like that community of trainers. So it's two very different types of companies. One's definitely more challenging in my eyes. And that's the food company. And that's where I have to spend most of my time now.
I feel like from the outsider looking in, and every time we talk about your business and what you're doing, I feel like scale and scalability is at the bedrock of both your businesses. Yeah. And I think so many people in the coaching industry, including myself, you know, and we're a 15-year-old business now, is scaling the fitness business is actually quite a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, you said that you felt like you learned a lot from your first company at UP. What were some of those things? Like, how do you then go ahead and scale your business? You talk about systems and processes.
Yeah. Systems and processes. I think starting from scratch is just onboarding program, and just ensuring that everybody who comes in your door as a new employee, it gets up to speed within the first 4 to 6 weeks. And then the process of turning that person in from a new, fresh person into practice clients, into real clients, everybody following that framework and sort of not rushing through that process, not sort of looking for the next increase in pay, because they have to do around about 400 sessions before they can actually go into commission. So I think that sort of framework of not allowing these new guys to sort of rush through and sort of skim, like just sort of think about earning more cash, is like actually getting good at your craft first.
Can I just pause you there though, real quick? Because I feel like finding people who fit that bill, which is a few things. It's like earning your stripes, I guess it's like the concept of delayed gratification, which is like you've got to put in the work now
Yeah.
and maybe not see the rewards straight away, but know that that will come later down the line.
Yeah.
But then you also said earlier you're looking for people who are happy to follow instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the hiring process? You got 70 coaches, so obviously like you're doing something right and you're getting the right people there.
Yeah. What's the hiring process? I mean, we do a couple of rounds and sort of a bit of filtering, but for me, it's even if you don't have that much experience in PT, you come from Pure, for example, you've done a year there.
So like a Globo Gym,
Yeah,
commercial
exactly.
gym.
It's like I have faith in my team to mold you in the right way that we want you to PT and we want you to interact with your customer. To me, it's not rocket science to PT somebody very well and understand your customer and sort of understand what moves the needle for them to actually achieve results. I mean, we're talking about getting in shape. Personally, I don't believe getting in shape is that hard a thing to do. It requires a few key inputs. It requires regular training, obviously, strength training, in my opinion, and nutrition, which is a sustainable diet plan, which customers can stick to for 12 to 15 weeks, whatever it might be, and just staying accountable to the process. I think I completely back my team of educators to take these new guys through this process and teach them the fundamentals of our systems and how to communicate with customers to get the best end result. And it really just depends on the personality of the hire. Are they how invested are they to get up to speed and turn into this sort of 1PT standard trainer that we want them to be? If they're not if they don't get there within the first 4 weeks, we just move on. We sort of look for the next person. But yeah, I think
how often does that happen?
How often do we hire?
How often does it happen where you get someone and within 4 weeks you realize that they're not the right person, you let them go?
It happens a few times a year for sure. And
what are big red flags for you?
Just like I said, we have structure, and if they're not following the structure with their practice clients and they're trying to go off on their own tangent with sort of old habits or what they think is right, then it becomes a little bit of a problem. Like I said, this early stage of them coming into work for us, this sort of onboarding process is really to get their feet under the table, to understand the process, understand the programming. And for sure, as you go on, you understand, you as a coach grow and you understand your customer better than anybody and what sort of progressions or regressions they should be doing on their exercise selection, what their diet plan should look like. And you should be educated enough through the onboarding program, but also ongoing with our education system to make those decisions. But if you can't follow simple instructions from day one for this whole onboarding process, then it becomes a bit of a problem. And we definitely had some guys who have been a bit more challenging, like bodybuilders who thought they knew everything. And their customers should be doing stupid exercises, which specifically we said that they shouldn't be doing. They got issues on whatever, lower back issues, and they're doing bent over row of 70 kilos already, and they're a novice. It's what are you doing? And you tell them, and it becomes a problem, and then it's almost like a 3 strikes and you're out. But I guess the best thing that's happened for us is that we've had so many guys that have been with us for so long now. We started in 2017. A lot of those guys are still here. And they really do treat the business like their own. And if there's anything dodgy going on, if there's anybody underperforming, they'll pull them up immediately. It's that's why one thing I was sort of one of the principles I try and instill with the team is take ownership of the situation. It's
Nice.
If take ownership, if you see something that isn't our standard, pull them up and fix it. If a new customer walks in and they're just looking around where am I going to go? Well, I've got a consult, where am I going? You take ownership, you step in and you be that sort of professional and ensure the customer experience is correct. Don't get me wrong, it's not everybody's like that, but we have a solid team of guys who've been with us for years now who I can meaning that I don't need to go in every single day and sort of watch everything, I think that's how we've scaled to where we are today, is just having that base of guys that just haven't churned and who have stuck around with us.
Yeah, and it's they're the culture pushers.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people say that culture takes years and years to solidify.
Yeah.
And you need those people who've been a part of the culture from the very start.
Yeah.
The culture being you probably to start.
Yeah.
That now are upholding the standards of the culture even
Yeah.
when you're not there.
Yeah, no, I think culture's absolutely massive in this space. Like I said, I was talking to you about your culture here. I'm not sure, I haven't seen many gyms or many sort of fitness concepts which have a community and a culture like yours. And it stems from the PTs, the people who work here. And I think you're right. I had very clear standards of what I wanted for my early trainers, and they've just sort of really immersed themselves into what me, Benny, and John really wanted out of the business, and it just sort of filtrates to the rest of the team now. That's the standard.
Yeah, I don't know why I always think I'm not even a football fan, but I think I saw like a Stevie G documentary once. But people talk about the culture of Anfield, at Liverpool, is that when you walk into Anfield, you just feel it already.
Yeah,
and it's like every single staff member, from like the coaches to the players to the cleaning staff to like the ladies in the canteen, like they're all upholding the same standards. They all have this like, because a lot of them have been there for so long, and so when a culture has been around for that long, it's just like it's almost becomes like this unspoken truth, like this unspoken way of doing things, that you don't need, and people just, they either get it straight away or they just don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always thinking about here. It's like, we're still such early days. And even though we're a 15-year-old company, the culture being like the behaviors and the values that we live by now are only they're quite new. They've only really come to the forefront in probably the last like 3 to 4 years. And so knowing that, whilst it's something that I think about every day, like we're only 3 years into it. And there's only half the coaching team right now who've been a part of it since its inception. And it's going to take time for everyone, even within this team, to really be fully bought into those values and that culture. And then, if you can retain those people, then that becomes really strong and powerful in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about retaining the OGs, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can do that, then you're set, in my opinion.
So, you were talking about in that onboarding process, you're teaching these new coaches like the 1PT way.
Yep.
Not digging into programming or methodologies, but what is the 1PT way? You talk about like how you want them to be with their clients and how you want them to build relationships. Like, how do you summarize that? Can you summarize it
without going into programming? I mean, to achieve any result, like I said, it's the program, nutrition, and also the most important thing for me is accountability. I think for us, it's just ensuring that relationship with the trainer and customer is there, and that the frequency of communication is there as well. Because you can give them a diet plan, you can train them 3 hours a week, and knowing that they're doing everything well in here, but what they do on the outside and what that relationship looks like, and can they keep their customer engaged to achieve results, is the main thing. So, I think, I'm not really sure. I think it's hard to summarize exactly, but I think just ensuring that relationships with their customers, that sort of rapport is there, and sort of be front of mind at all times. And I don't know, it's really hard to explain.
So just on that, like relationship building, is that something that you're working with new coaches on, like developing soft skills there to be able to develop relationships?
Not so much me. Caitlin, who's my wife, who does the onboarding, does a lot more of that. But every customer is different, and what makes them tick is different. But it just comes with experience, I think. But we have to do our part of the expectations of following up and just ensuring that everything is moving along as we promised in the consultation. And I think the trainer needs to adapt to every single customer that they have coming through, because everybody thinks differently, or sort of expectations are a little bit different, But soft skills, we have our sort of weekly workshops mainly about sort of education or exercise execution or whatever it might be, but sort of how to get the most out of your clients is definitely a part of the topics.
I think it's such a massive part of the coaching piece. You can have sometimes those coaches that have all the skill sets when it comes to program design, assessment, nutrition,
but can't actually
connect,
get the result out of the client.
Can't connect for whatever reason. The idea of like the lifeline or the life cycle of a coach, and I'm actually just thinking about like your life cycle and kind of trying to think what it looked like for you. It was like, you're PT coaching in London, moved to Hong Kong, you're coaching at UP for 2 years,
just under 2 years.
You create your own business. Early days of that business, you're on the coaching floor, and then you've transitioned yourself to almost entirely not be on that coaching floor now. When someone new starts at 1PT, is there a life cycle for them? Because you said you got educators, right? So people, I guess, who are educating new people coming in. Did they start as coaches at some point?
Yeah, everybody starts as just sort of like a junior coach.
Do you think that's important?
Yeah, I think starting from the ground up is very, very important, because if you bring somebody else in, it just changes the dynamic of the company, or we have so many trainers who've been there for like 5 years or whatever. And a lot of them prove themselves to actually step up to these new roles or sort of earn more commission or whatever it might be. And if you bring somebody else in, it just sort of throws off that whole sort of earning your stripes and working up your way up the ladder. You know, for sure, there's only so many roles within this space that you can give out, especially when there's like 70 of them trying to like figure out what the next step is.
Yeah.
But for me, I think there's a natural progression from junior trainer to senior trainer to mentor to additional roles like consultant or like educators or whatever it might be, and then onto managers, and then opening up new markets. I see these trainers that we have as the leaders of any new market, and it's like my job to get them ready for that, because my plan is to try and open up as many markets as possible. I think realistically 8 to 10 markets. We're in 2 right now. We're trying to open up a 3rd one in Dubai, but it's a little bit challenging at the moment to find a location within the area we want to open. But I look at all these trainers in a way that, okay, who could I send over there and have full faith in? And it allows them to have that next level of meaning in this space, because I think people find a ceiling and sort of lose their minds, really. So I really want to always have like a career progression ladder for these guys to not only earn more money, but just feel more fulfilled of what they're moving on to, and sort of take the next step into manager, take the next step into like country head or whatever it might be. And it allows me to have full confidence that wherever we do go, I have somebody who's literally been there since day one or been through the process that I have full confidence in, to bring this cultural values, to bring our standard to wherever we go. So,
and how do you select that person? I'm just thinking, especially you're not spending as much time in the gym.
Yeah.
So you're not getting to see maybe like the full day like you used to. Mm-hmm. So, how are you identifying that talent to know that this might be someone I want to take on to the next stage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there all day, every day. I do have John and Benny, and also my wife, Caitlin, who is sort of one of the managers. She looks after a lot of the Singapore stuff remotely. We did live in Singapore for a period of time. But it doesn't mean I'm not, speaking to these guys at all, like the team. And the time I do spend in there, I see myself firsthand who are the serious operators and how they conduct themselves in their sessions, how they get results, how they sort of interact with the team, and can they be molded into something bigger. Stepping up, taking sessions on education on a Thursday afternoon, actively pushing themselves to put their hand up and be seen is important for me, rather than just hiding away and just doing your sessions and then running off to the coffee shop and then going home. Like, that's easy to see. But also, these guys on an individual basis, you understand like what makes them sort of tick, and understand that they have a bit more hunger in their belly to move on to something a bit bigger, and you take note of that. But beyond that, I speak to Benny, John, Caitlin a lot, and basically the way I see myself is like I will always look at the growth of the company first rather than anybody else. I think that's my main role, and I will always push to open up as many markets as possible, well, more markets. And I sort of set that direction. I was like, okay, this is where I want to go. Who could we possibly send? This is like where I want to go. This is where I want to set up. This is what the numbers could look like. Who's going to come and do this for us? And then I sort of think of the rest of the team, and I obviously have my own ideas as well. But I sort of have my partners on the ground who give me enough feedback to decide who's sort of next in line for the opportunity.
I guess there's a lot of relationship building that has to be put into your business to know, like you said, like what makes someone tick, to like, know the ins and out of an individual, to really be able to sift and know, is this person going to be the right person for this next thing? Yeah.
Or they're going to crack.
Because I thought, in my earlier years of leadership, I just thought my natural progression was that as I started to involve myself more in looking after the business and less on the coaching floor, that I'd actually be dealing with people less. I don't know why I thought that's where my time would go. But I actually find that I invest even more time into my people now and develop deeper relationships with them and really, get to know what, like you said, what really makes them tick. Let's see how they handle things like adversity and hard times. And
I mean, no matter whatever market we open up next, I'm going to be massively involved in that process as well. We did it in Hong Kong. Caitlin and I moved to Singapore, didn't know anybody in Singapore. We set up the business there from scratch. So we've done this whole process before. I wouldn't just send somebody over and just expect them to build a 500 session a week business in the space of a year that fast. You know what I mean? I think it's just understanding. For me, it's like, who do I trust the most? And I think I have a good gauge of who I trust the most, and I also have the backup of Benny and John telling me that these guys are the best performers in the business. They communicate very well with the rest of the team. They educate the rest of the team. I just trust them. And then I think I'm just willing to give people a go like that. But no matter what, I'll never send anybody over by themselves just to set up shop.
Yeah.
And just see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style of leadership?
I think it really depends on the person. I think Benny and John will definitely agree that I was very hard on them in the early stages to get the result I wanted from them. But some people need to come from a different approach. You need to scratch somebody's back to get what you want from them sometimes, you know? And I think it's understanding how people react to different types of approaches is important, and what sort of character you're dealing with. So it's not one sort of way of dealing with things on a one-on-one basis. I think trying to be as inspirational as possible to the rest of the guys.
What does that mean?
So like, whether that's sort of flexing your knowledge or flexing your know-how of the business or how to build a business, and like they look at you in a different way. Like, okay, shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like I stepped back in last week and I took a session on trial sessions. And it wasn't just like going through the motions of this is what you do next, but like understanding like why every single phase of this trial session, why we do things in a certain way with a sale in mind. You know what I mean? Like, I think not a lot of the trainers, not a lot of people in this industry like look at it through a different lens versus just taking, like, I don't know if you guys do trials, maybe not, but we do, of just taking people through a session, just be like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? Like, for me, there's like, it's broken into pieces for a reason, and every single phase of this trial session has a meaning. And I'm just like explaining that reasoning to these guys. And so I think that granularity and just sort of like, it means something to them that like, okay, oh, actually, you know, this guy, you know what I mean? Like, I should follow him. Like, that's like my understanding of how these guys sort of, I hope they look at me, just like a relatively serious operator, not just a guy who just sort of pops in it day in, day out.
Yeah.
But yeah, depending on like management, it really depends on the individual itself. If they're quite an emotional person, I won't just dive into them. If they're a guy that just needs it, I will. Like Benny, for example, isn't a guy which I've given so much shit to in the past, but he's turned out to be pretty good. He's a guy who I'll go way so aggressive on. But there are other guys who just require a much softer approach, who, you know, I got to scratch their back like to get exactly what I want from them. Yeah.
But to know what style of leadership an individual needs, like, you need to know the individual.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Like in Singapore, I'm definitely softer to those guys.
Why?
I feel like I feel like in general the personalities are a little bit softer in Singapore as well, versus some of the personalities in Hong Kong. I think it's a very different type of employee. They're great guys. I love them in Singapore, but I definitely approach managing them differently to some of the guys in Hong Kong.
Would you say that in your 3 locations with 1PT, the culture, if I was to walk in, would the culture be the same?
Good question. I think we're still getting there. I think we've definitely made some errors in the past because we've got 2 locations in Central now, splitting up the team incorrectly. When I say incorrectly, is like too many sort of big characters in one gym and not enough in the other. So that is definitely part of something we're working on in Hong Kong. In Singapore, it's taken a bit of time to make sure that, like, because I have to work remotely from Singapore now as well. I think for the period we were there, we definitely had an amazing culture, and things are now stronger than ever, in my opinion. During COVID, it was really tough because everybody was under the cosh and just like, when's my next dollar coming in, you know? But we definitely got rid of some of the bad eggs in Singapore, and I believe you would have a very similar experience in any gym. I think maybe there's one of our units that requires a little bit more work, but I think just we like I said, we mismanaged who went where in that period of time. So just making sure there's enough balance for every single unit would be important.
Yeah, I mean, I think managing and developing a culture in one place is hard enough.
Yeah.
But the thought of developing
It gets hard. Yeah.
a culture
it's
in
hard,
3 places, especially when you go overseas.
Yeah.
But I guess you've already alluded to it. It's having people you trust
Yeah.
in each of those places that already know the culture.
Yeah. I mean, you could hire an absolute beast from the UK, but he's never worked for you a day in your life. So you don't know what you're getting. Like he could know everything. He could be the most knowledgeable person ever, but if he doesn't know your culture and understand how to maintain a team and keep them engaged and keep them hungry, you're never going to build your business. Retention of trainers and retain trainers, you retain customers. That's the key input of this business. This is where people fail. You can add as many customers as you want, but if you're losing them at the same rate, you're not going anywhere. So culture is the main thing. And I think that's why for you guys have such an amazing community and culture like I've never seen. I don't think that it's pretty unique, just like it's interesting. I'll probably speak to you offline about this a little bit more. It's like what you guys do, what sort of initiatives you do to maintain. Maybe like group settings is a little bit more community, versus one-on-one. But even your coaches, it seems like have like extremely strong bonds, and I think that's where it starts. Like forget when you set up your gym. If anybody's setting up their own gym, forget about getting to your first $5 million. You know what I mean? Like screw it. Just figure out how to build that culture and sort of get from 0 to 1 with these guys who love working for you every single day.
Yeah.
And then figure out the rest later.
I always likened it to like sport.
Yeah.
And I always thought about the best teams that I was in, whether it was rugby, whether it was football, whether it was even just like a friendship group, growing up.
Yeah.
But when you've got that special bond with a group of people, you'll do anything for those people, and you love spending time with those people. And that's just what I've tried to create here. And I went about it all the wrong ways at the start because I'd actually read too much literature on how to build teams, and I'd basically gone away from the things that make me and the things that had brought people around me in the past, and had tried to kind of manufacture it in a way that I thought businesses should. And maybe that was creating too many policies. That was maybe like me bringing like a professional ed and a serious ed versus like the real ed.
Yeah.
And of course there's you've got to strike a fine balance between the two. But I now fully believe. And another thing that I always read was like you can't be too close to people in your team. And don't build friendships with your colleagues.
I think that's actually where we're quite strong.
Yeah.
We went out on the piss with these guys.
Yeah.
Like once every sort of 8 to 12 weeks. And that's where you build those memories. I know I don't like going out much. I know you don't, but it's important, like that's where you build funny memories. Think about your best mates. Like it's not memories from going to the library. It's memories from going on holiday with each other and talking all sorts of garbage. And like those nights out, we still do it now, but obviously there's so many of them that it's quite expensive and tough. Especially in the early days, it's like building those, like we went to Macau together, we did like all these trips together, and it's just like hilarious times. And I think that's definitely been important for how this business was built, is not just understanding like retention strategies and techniques and acquisition strategies. It's like, all right, well, let's just have a laugh and talk about it on Monday. I mean, and like that's what life is. I mean, people want to have that human aspect. Shouldn't all just be work and work environment. You should be going out with them, going out for dinners, going out for drinks, and it's just real life,
Yeah, I agree. And it was like if I could show up to the workplace every day and actually be excited to hang out with the people in the workplace every day, like that, what a result! What a result that is, and that's really the quest that I'm on every day now. It's like, how can I make this a better place that we all want to be a part of? And if I could get to a point where I had every employee so that they had a best friend working in the business, what an amazing place that would be. So that and there's been a lot of learnings through that, and just not overcomplicating it. It's like
just leave it organic.
How do I build relationships and connections with people outside the gym? I'm just going to do exactly the same things inside the gym. Obviously, the challenging part is just when you need to have the hard word or the hard conversation, you just need to know when to do that.
I think that's probably where we did quite well. I mean, when I was my previous employer, there was such a massive hierarchy. There was this like god at the top of the hierarchy who would never give you a good word. You know what I mean? And I never met him in person. And then there was a guy below him who also never gave you a good word, who would come in like once every 2 weeks or once every 3 weeks. And then there was your manager. It was like for us, it was like, okay, well, let's make this a flat organization, but with boundaries in place. And we were all like, sort of, I guess Benny's the oldest guy. He's like 36 now. It's like, it's not that old. You know what I mean? But at the time, Benny was early 30s. I was like 26 or whatever it was. And these guys were sort of similar age to us. And we treated them with respect and as friends. And I think that's definitely, like, that stayed with them. And we would go out for drinks with them. We'd do stuff with them. You know what I mean? We'd do like outside of the gym. I think that sort of flat organizational structure definitely helped us because they want to do it for you as well. They don't look at you in a certain way like, oh, I'm working for this guy, I'm making this guy money. You know what I mean? It's like I'm invested in this gym. I like you're my friend. I want to do it for you and with you. And I have passion. I'm sort of proud to be your mate and proud to be working alongside you. That's, in my opinion, what business should be.
What have you found the challenging aspects of having that organizational structure?
Challenging. Not everybody's on your wavelength. You know what I mean? I think you definitely get some guys who I think they're too cool to be there, or you know what I mean? It's like who don't try and immerse themselves into that team environment. But no like obvious challenge. I think for sure there's been times where because it's a flat organization, it's people may overstep the mark and think that they can sort of say certain things or do certain things without your consent, or sort of, I think depends on the character. Like my character is a little bit more, I don't know if it's like, I think Benny, for example, he is a softer character. So people will speak to him in a certain way, which is fine 99% of the time, but that 1% is overstepping the mark a little bit. But I think it's so irregular. It doesn't happen that often. I think it really depends on the individual, and it's usually just an individual person.
Yeah. I've definitely found that people who've come from structures where there is strict hierarchy can sometimes find it quite hard to adjust to the flat structure.
Yeah.
And knowing that they have a voice and they can say things and be heard, and they can actually be friends with their colleagues. Takes a bit of adjusting and changes.
I mean, for us, it's like in both companies, it's like the best idea wins. It could be the bloody janitor. Like, you know what I mean? I don't care. If it's the best idea, you win. What on you're like, you're heard. You know what I mean? We want to empower you guys. We want to try and level you up. We want you to be on our level. We don't want you to feel like you're at the bottom of the pile, like I felt like I was in my last job, and like with nowhere to go.
And how do you do that? How do you do that on a day-to-day? How do you make people feel heard?
Well, like I said, I mean, depending on their progress within the business, like I said, there's always the next step for them to move up to. And there's like there's mentors, there's the mentorship program, there's opportunity, there's always opportunity for them to sort of share their voice and share their sort of their view on things. And we have like regular meetings with our managers, our educators, just like get their feedback. These guys are on the gym floor day in, day out. They see things we don't see as well. We want to empower them. Like that's definitely been a massive part for us. Just putting the power in their hands, the guys we trust, and essentially listening really. Because I think in the past, like other companies, just like, right, this guy from a different market says this is the standard, comes like down, and it comes to you, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm just got to follow suit, you know. Whereas these guys, I think, just more power in their hands just makes them feel like they're making a difference every day. But we have regular sort of check-ins with our guys and just sort of open the floor.
As a leader, have you always been open to hearing feedback from other people?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you? I wasn't.
Really?
No, I used to really struggle with it.
It depends. I guess like feedback. I mean, it depends who it's coming from. I had I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. We had a partner who had a finance background at one point in 1PT, and his feedback was completely random and with no sort of, it was just like picking apart things, you know, right, when he was not present at all. But we got rid of him. So nice. That was good.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I definitely put a strong campaign out to get rid of him. But I think if it's guys who I sort of value their opinion, no problem. Like, for example, my trainers now, I'm not going to tell them, I'm not going to sort of ignore what they say. They're in the gym way more hours than me. If they see things being done a certain way or incorrectly, or they think things can be improved, I'm listening to it. And if I filter it myself, obviously, if it doesn't make sense, and I sort of give them reason. If it does make sense, we'll build around it. But it really depends on the person and if their judgment holds value in my eyes. But 9 out of 10 times it does.
Yeah. And that's something that didn't come naturally to me. I think I think as a kid, I always was quite resistant to feedback anyway. It would be a shot at my ego is the way I would receive it. And I'd take everything as criticism and I'd be on the defensive straight away and get very emotional. And I think when I came into business, I had come in thinking that the leader had to be like the hard-headed authoritarian that ruled with an iron fist. Like that's just the way that I thought I had to run a business. And maybe that was because of seeing the way that my parents ran businesses. Maybe it was watching movies on how businesses were run, reading textbooks on what leaders should be. And I think also in sport, you know, you see, especially in rugby, like you see a lot of leaders be like the hard asses, you know, like driving very, very hard standards. And that's what I was like as a team captain.
I think there's definitely a place for it. I mean, I was like watching that Air Jordan movie the other night, or Air, wherever it is. And I sort of went down this Michael Jordan rabbit hole again, like Last Dance, and saw how he
good.
sort of, was the best. He's amazing. But saw how he operated. It's completely different. It really it depends. Like if you're that good and people follow suit, then great. I feel like in our industry, people, I don't know, it's a little bit different. I think people want to know what their next step is. They want to have a voice. It's easy to lose a trainer. Yeah. And I feel like you need to empower them if they have good ideas.
I think it also depends what you want to get out of your people.
Yeah.
You know, if you just want a bunch of robots who don't contribute or think on their feet and just tick boxes and check out, then you could maybe run your business, you know, with more of that authoritarian.
Yeah. Well, again, it's talking about scaling. If you have so much control, how the hell are you going to scale this thing into a 10 market business? You need to trust the people around you who have ideas. For sure, you have the final say. But if you have control over every single piece of information that goes out, then how are you supposed to scale this thing, you know?
Did you always know that you were going to transition off the coaching floor and be in the position that you're kind of in now?
Yeah.
Did you think that was
my
as
plan
as it did?
from day one?
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
So can I before you go on that, I wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Mine was I actually fell in love with coaching straight away, and I loved that process so much. And this business just kind of started to build and form in the background.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I realized I needed to shift where my time and energy was going. Yeah. But even still, like I still love the coaching side so much. It's very.
Don't get me wrong. I like the process of coaching. I like interacting with my clients and seeing things happen and working with them. It's like it's a sense of achievement for sure. And like being on the gym floor, interacting with your trainers, your other clients, building that environment. But then I guess like if you look at it through a business standpoint, it's like, okay, well, where's my time best spent? It's like, okay, I do 20, 30 sessions a week out of 1,100 in Hong Kong. And what does that really equate to in terms of a dollar amount for the business earning? You know what I mean? Like, should those 30 hours actually be spent in figuring out how to scale the business in different ways?
Can I ask then on that, you know, do you always look at it from a dollar's perspective?
No,
because I guess you know,
for me, I definitely look at growth. I'm the only one that really looks at growth in the company.
Yeah,
for 1PT, but we have so many guys who look at everything else. You know what I mean? For sure, at the beginning, it wasn't like that, but then things just sort of escalated, and I was like, okay, well, how do we keep this momentum going? I want to dominate in this market, in this space. I want to beat my old employer. Like that was massive for me.
Is that still something that drives you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do it like big time.
And what happens when you do beat him? What next?
Beat him somewhere else. It's pretty simple. But I don't hate them. It just feels like that's where I used to be. That was what I thought was like Everest. I want to see if I can reach it, you know? And for sure, like I said, there's more to it than earning money. There's more to it than just building a bit, like growing the business. But like I said, there's so many people within the business now that are quite good at the other parts of the business, like the education, the sort of nurturing trainers, building the community. My mandate is, all right, how do we keep this train going? How do we keep going up? What are the inputs? Like, what's the next opportunity?
The day you stepped off the coaching floor entirely, was that hard? Was it a hard decision to make? Was there any like loss of identity in that process?
Any loss of identity? I definitely, I've lost some connection for sure, because naturally I'm not on the gym floor with these guys day in day out anymore. And it was something I was doing for around about 5 or 6 years. 6 years. And it felt strange for sure, but I just knew it was my next, it was what I had to do. You know, it was just, if I want to turn this into something substantial, what I dream every single day about, I need to use this time more intelligently to provide more opportunity for these guys who are working for this company, rather than just staying flat. I think that's my thing. Yeah.
What drives you every day to keep on putting in the work?
I have this huge expectation of what the end result needs to be, and I think it's pretty unhealthy actually for both companies, because it just fuels disappointment if it doesn't happen. And I'm so scared of not achieving what I think we can achieve. So that's what fuels me for sure. I think just not reaching the potential, or like this idea that I've really voiced out to myself many times before, and what I think we can do. I think we have a product. We think we have the people. How are we going to make it work? You know, I just want to bring both businesses to that level which I expect.
And when you say this level and this potential, is that a tangible thing? Is it like 10 businesses? Is it X amount of dollars? Like, how do you know when you've reached it?
Yeah, for Nutrition Kitchen, it's there's some very sort of obvious numbers we need to hit in order to sort of get an exit, some sort of form of exit. That's my dream for that business. And for 1PT, I don't think the exit opportunity is large in terms of like multiple of EBITDA. So like, how big can we grow it in terms of size, and how profitable can we be? And I think I have a strong idea of what that looks like. And I actually have a clear idea of what that pathway looks like. It's just putting enough time and effort in towards doing it.
Are you open to sharing what that is?
Sorry,
what that goal is?
What, 1PT?
Yeah.
I want to try and get to 3,500 to 4,000 sessions a week. Like, that's my sort of goal. I think that translates into around about sort of 20 plus million US a year, 25, depending on what we charge at the time. And I think we can actually maintain similar margins of what we do now, which is X amount. I'm not going to share everything, but yeah, I genuinely do believe that's a possibility at the end of the day. So like, it's exciting for a company like going back to previous employer, that they are setting the standard. You know what I mean? They have done it, and I would just love to achieve something similar to what they've done. And I know what their sort of high level numbers are ish, and it really excites me that that is a possibility. I don't think like it's interesting. It's not so much the money. It's more just like achieving something.
Yeah.
You know.
I was going to ask, have you always been like a big goal setter? Have you set like arbitrary numbers and figures and targets in other aspects of your life and tried to use those as your motivation?
I don't think so. Not so much. I'm actually quite a chilled out person outside of work. I was obsessed with when I really trained hard. I was completely obsessed with being the best.
Yeah.
And like when I stopped playing rugby, that was my sport of like just training, being like, I mean, I did like a physique show as well, which is don't recommend that to anybody. But I do get quite fixated on certain things. But in terms of work, I think what's really driven me is my partner. Actually, he's in both companies now. Roman, he's very aggressive with what he wants to achieve from business, and I think that's definitely filtered into me for Nutrition Kitchen and 1PT. And I think working with someone who's so sort of punchy with what he wants to achieve just reflects on me now, which is good. I think he sets the ceiling so high, like ridiculously high, that it's actually unachievable, but it means that your new base is higher than what you thought you could achieve originally, you know? So when he first came into Nutrition Kitchen, he was like, I think we can do 10,000 meals a day, easy. And I was like, we're doing 1,000 at the moment. He was like, yeah, it's fine. And then we like sort of scale it up to 6,200. I was like, oh my God, like what's happening? You know, it was crazy.
What's his background?
So Roman, he was a client. He is a client at 1PT. And I did the consult with him initially. And his background's in e-commerce. Like, he's a growth marketer, but he has a sort of he's invested in a ton of different businesses, mainly sort of D2C online businesses. But he actually messaged us in 2019 when I was trying to get rid of our other partner. And I was trying to grow the business for our marketing channels or whatever.
Is this Nutrition Kitchen or 1PT?
1PT initially.
Yeah.
And then he just like, I want to meet you guys. I think I can help you grow through sort of paid advertising on Facebook, YouTube, Google, because we weren't doing it very well at the time. And he was like, I love your product. I love your culture. I think you got something. I think I know how I can make you guys grow to something different level. So I flew back to Hong Kong because I was living in Singapore at the time. Took a meeting, and that was like a real sort of day in my day that sticks out to me. I was like, wow, like this guy
Profound, yeah.
like, you remember this, like, it's pretty cringe, but I remember in like the Social Network movie when the guy meets Mark Zuckerberg meets that guy who plays Justin Timberlake plays. He's like talking to. It felt like that, and I was so excited. That's when I think it really flicked to me, being like, okay, I need to get off the gym floor. What this guy's saying just like has got me so amped up to try and build these businesses into something else. And I think that was a time where I like flicked a switch, like you said earlier. It's like, what sort of made you change?
And what were the things that he said in that meeting? What do you still remember?
I mean, just explaining to me like how we can scale this business and what the possibilities are and what he's done in the past with his other businesses. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is like the answer I've been looking for. I've been trying so hard to unlock growth in certain ways. I have faith in our team to continue doing what they're doing and maintain their customers. Input 1, retention. Input 2, how do we acquire new customers? And that was him. You know what I mean? Just understanding like him and his team coming in sort of show us what that sales funnel looks like, show us what the paid advertising platforms look like, how you really use them properly to drive as much traffic as possible. And it was like a light switch moment, you know? And when he told me, when we had these conversations, I was like, well, I have another business called Nutrition Kitchen. He's like, yeah, I know it. I was like, I think it's a good fit for you. Initially, I wasn't that interested, but I was pretty persistent. And I think that's like a big takeaway is don't just go into business with people who do the same thing as you, or don't just rush into a business of somebody who's a worse version of yourself because they add you no value. Find somebody who can, like, this guy's not a fitness person, but he has a skill set and a team around him that has helped our business massively. So I think no matter what I do, like if I do another business like the next 5 years or whatever, I'll definitely be very, very selective of who I go into business with, for sure. I think that's definitely one of the biggest takeaways from my professional career so far.
Oh, I've got light bulbs going off in my own head about my own business now. But the marketing side of things, I feel you guys are doing really well. And I probably am only saying that because what I see every single day, and I think what Al sees every day on our social media pages, is that we're flooded with 1PT and Nutrition Kitchen. Yeah. Almost every time I go on social media, it's there. It is in my face. Yeah. So well done.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a lot,
but tell me what goes into that.
It's a lot goes into it. So on the marketing side of things, I guess like our main. I mean, let's stick with 1PT. There's a few channels of getting customers. Obviously, referrals and word of mouth is the most organic, best platform. When I say best in terms of best quality leads, because someone's referring you, the validation's there. 9 out of 10 times they're going to sign up. But beyond that is like, how do you drive more traffic? And there are a few key channels that everybody should really be focusing on. And really Meta is the main one. I think you should be focusing on one channel versus loads of different channels, like trying to nail YouTube, Google is also good, but trying to nail YouTube, trying to nail TikTok in Singapore, wherever, just focus on one channel and just get very good at it. And
when you say Meta, is that Facebook and Instagram?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
So yeah, I mean, that's where we sort of put all our efforts in, is the Meta. And looking at it, like, you go through a whole sales funnel of like the creative level, what you guys see, the ad. And it's not just an ad that we post up and just randomly put together. Like, there's meaning, there's a thought process behind this ad, from like engaging you to look at the ad.
Can I just pause you there?
Yeah.
I want to tell you what my impressions are when I see Nutrition Kitchen and 1PT. And Al, feel free to jump in here. So when I see 1PT, the first thing I see is that you obviously see muscles. You've got someone with their top off straight away, and it's like the lighting spot on. They've got a little bit of baby oil drizzled on them for extra effect.
Yeah, sometimes.
But what I also do like is that they, in the nicest way possible, it's clear that they're just a normal person.
Yeah.
You know, they're not like a professional athlete.
Correct.
They're not an ex-physique competitor who's just gone out of shape and gotten back into shape, and it makes it relatable straight away. And I love that one PT is always a story, right? It's like, who am I? What do I do? Which immediately creates identity that other people might relate to.
Correct.
And like, this is me now.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a very professional, high quality production that's obviously been very well thought out of. Like, the gym's clearly being closed for this photo shoot to take
Sundays,
place.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And what I also like about it is, and I'm just spitballing right now, this is just me thinking out loud, is that the coach is always there with the client,
Yep.
which shows like connection and bond,
Correct.
which I think is really cool. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the accountability piece.
Yeah.
How accurate?
That's very, very accurate, actually.
Well, that's testament to you then.
Yeah. I mean, look, who are you marketing to? You're marketing to busy professionals, mid-30s to 40s. You don't want to have an absolute unit, shredded, like unrelatable, lifting 200 kilos deadlift. You know what I mean? Like, who's that really attracting? You know what I mean? So like, yeah, you have these trainers who do this and like all the effects and all the, like there's a high production, everything's going crazy. But actually, no, people just want to hear a story of somebody who's like them, who works around the corner from them, who's changed their life around.
Yeah.
And you want to get a feel of, okay, this is possible for me to do. This is where the guy started. This is where he got to. He's an everyday person. He's never trained before. She's never trained before. How did they do that? That's so inspiring for me. I'm interested. And then beyond that, you had like the human element of like the coach being there. It's like, this is a partnership. We're here with you. It's not just you and your own journey. Even if you never stepped foot in the gym before, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't matter. Your trainer's with you and everybody's on the same journey together. You know what I mean? That's what we're trying to get through this creative level.
I can also imagine that as the coach, you know, like knowing that you've created this transformation in someone,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like, hey, like Josh, it's your turn this Sunday to now step up and be on the next advert because you've done an awesome job with your client. Surely that's
It's a
quite
good flex.
motivating for
it's nice.
for your people.
The guys
as well.
love it. And we always, I mean, we definitely, I mean, a big part of the goal is for these guys to get transformations of their clients. You know what I mean? And to be acknowledged and rewarded by having this ad, which gets a significant spend behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, and there plus it was like, oh, I saw you on. You know what I mean? Like people was like, oh, I saw your ad. Blah 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 blah. blah. It's a good flex for the coach, and they feel good about what they've achieved. But regarding the creative itself, it follows a very sort of particular structure, and how you sort of like the different variables within that structure of creative to engage the customer, like resonate, agitate a problem that they have right now, and sort of show them what solution is, and sort of urge them to click to essentially book into the consultation or whatever it might be next.
What percentage of spend roughly goes into
against revenue?
Yeah.
Actually quite low. It's 3.5%.
3.5 is going back into marketing and promotion.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually pretty low for us. Nutrition Kitchen is a little bit higher. But for 1PT, 3.5%, I would say going up towards 10% is fine.
So, I mean, this is quite inspiring for me to hear this, because I would say this is an avenue of business that we really haven't explored.
And by the way, I think your business could explode if you do this right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you nail all the rest of the most important things. The rest of all this stuff is the easy part.
Yeah. And that's something that has been great advice from mentors in the past, is that you've got to focus on actually nailing your business first.
You can't, I mean,
you can't market a shit product.
You can't market a shit product, but also in this space, if the product's shit, then everyone, your trainers leave, your customers leave, you have, you know what I mean? You have no base.
Yeah.
But you guys have a strong base. You have a community. You just need to add more fuel to the fire and get people more leads in the door. And
I think this is an area of business that I'm really interested in learning about myself. Yeah. And I know I'm behind the ball on this, behind where the industry is, and I'm probably behind where our company should be. So, you know, just recent conversations with the rest of my management team and Al have been around this. Like, you know, we need to step up now. We need to start learning more. So it's been inspiring to hear.
I'll definitely find somebody who knows what they're doing on these platforms, because not only are they technical, they change all the time. The rules change all the time. So you need to have somebody who can manage these campaigns for you and give you, there's like the media buying, but then there's also like the creative strategy as well. And then there's the sales funnel as well. When I say sales funnel, it's like, you see my ad, where do you land? And what does that page look like when you land? what information am I getting from this page to actually really make me want to book in for a trial session or a consultation or a session. So it's like every single piece of the funnel is like, there's a meaning behind everything. Should be a messaging, and there should be like, you know what I mean? Like there should be an outcome for every single piece. And it's really not that hard.
You got to firstly know.
You got to firstly know
who you
what
are and what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Who your customer is,
Yeah.
especially, and what do they want to hear, and what's going to make them go on to the next stage of booking in to see you.
Yeah. Okay, you ready to hear my take on Nutrition Kitchen's
Yeah.
advertising?
Yes.
And now feel free to jump in here.
Painful.
So
yeah, I know.
I feel Nutrition Kitchen is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum in many ways. I feel like it is done on a lower budget, but deliberately, perhaps, to feel like I'm just the person at home on my iPhone eating this meal, and it's showing me kind of going to the door and getting it. And I feel like, are they all genuine Nutrition Kitchen customers? Sometimes.
Not everybody.
Sometimes.
There's two, like what you're talking about is like a UGC ad, user generated content.
Okay. Yes.
So if I was say, if you're my customer, I would say like, you love my product, you've been on it for so many weeks, are you willing to do a sort of testimonial with your iPhone? And that is actually a very, very popular way of building more creatives these days, especially in sort of high volume businesses like that, like a Nutrition Kitchen. It's also a cheaper way to build content as well. But it looks, the idea is that it looks authentic, you know?
Yeah.
But for sure, it's built in a very structured way as well.
So to tell
problem, agitate, solution. Why do you need this benefit, feature. Social proof. Like, look at these transformations we got. Look at these 5-star reviews we got into the CTA, the click through. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many resources out there that everybody could use to understand how to build adverts the most effective way. It's really not actually that challenging.
As someone who's wanting to now, learn more about this, which direction would you point me in?
I'll give you plenty of resources of like, I mean, it's more like the e-commerce side of things, the paid media side of things. So there's different individuals around the world that teach these things. So on a creative level, there's a guy called like Nick Shalkford or something like that. I'd definitely look into his work. I'll send you all their profiles later. And like they do plenty of talks, like stand up, sort of keynote, whatever talks around the world about how to build winning creatives. That's step one. Step two is like, okay, landing page. All right, how do we build winning landing pages? There's a guy called Nick Sharma who I think is really good. And understanding like the thought process behind landing pages and what sort of content you should be putting on a landing page. And there's sort of the two main pieces there. And then beyond that is like a email marketing strategy, because not everybody, people might submit their email as in like a newsletter or like show interest. But all right, how do you drive this person from being a warm lead into a paying customer? And there's another guy called like Chase Diamond who's really good at that, sort of like nurturing this person from lead to customer. So I think like using these guys' frameworks as a start is one thing, but what else you can also do is like reverse engineer your best competitor and what they do. So there are tools out there where you can see what the leading companies in your space are doing. So you could actually, not that we're a leading company, but we do things relatively the right way. There's like an ads platform that you can look at, see what ads we're running. And you can sort of break down those ads and be like, okay, why did they do that? Okay, like what's the messaging? Like why will it be a strong message towards their customer? And then you can click on the ad and you can see what our landing page looks like. You can like sort of like break everything down. So there are techniques and ways to do things to build out like a winning sales funnel. And then beyond that is in your hands when the customer comes into the facility, and we have a consultation process and trial process and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a few steps for you guys. I don't know what it looks like, but in terms of online creative landing page, just if you can nail those two things and then find a good media buyer to do it.
Media buyer?
So people who buy ad inventory for you on Facebook, on the Facebook platform. So just ensuring that your campaigns are fully optimized and essentially performing the best way they can. There are some people out there. I mean, I definitely would recommend not working with agencies. They look at the wrong metrics in terms of like, oh, look how much reach we got. It's like, that doesn't really mean that I want customers. I want conversions. So the objective is conversion. That's the only thing I really care about, So making sure you find the right person there is key. Because if you just go to an agency, a marketing agency who charge you 25, 30,000 Hong Kong a month and just get no results, you're just completely just burning money. You're just putting money on fire. But having a good guy who can manage your campaign, it's not a big job actually. And there will be guys in Hong Kong or around the world actually. It doesn't have to be Hong Kong. That's the beauty of
like
it.
a VA, someone overseas.
Yeah, I would definitely have somebody who's got good experience there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want some just VA to manage my campaigns from Philippines. Like, you know what I mean? You want to have a relationship with this person, and they might cost you a little bit, but it's definitely they're worth their money if they're doing their job right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I think, a question I wanted to ask you earlier, which is why transformations? So I think firstly, can you just explain like what when people say when you say you're a transformation gym, what does that actually mean?
The transformation gym, I mean, we deal with general population people. When I say general population people, it's people who are time poor, sort of poor diets, haven't really trained before, complete novices. So when I say transformation, and I don't like the word transformation that much, it's more like results. Because a result for somebody who might be like 120 kilos is that they get down to 100 kilos. It doesn't mean that they're shredded. You know what I mean? Like that's for sure the abs sell. And that's why we put these types of clients on our ads. But why sort of results-based business? I think number one, that was my background. That was what I knew. That was how I learned my craft.
Well, then can I just pause you there then? Like, why did you get into that space?
I was looking at the more sort of serious facilities around the world, and for me, I think as a coach, you want to have like a strong idea of exactly what the outcome is with a customer. And I think if you get a customer in the door and you just sort of work with them like here and there, and you sort of go on this journey with them, but then the outcome isn't as clear as like just seeing them perform better on the gym floor. If they haven't actually achieved like a visual result, then it's not as rewarding. Performance metric for sure. I think that's one thing. But for the trainers, like, this is a result as a result. Like there's no two ways about it. And I think for me, that was important that our guys have that sort of northern star of what's expected from them. And from a business standpoint, I think it sells for sure. Like there's no two ways about it. Everybody wants to get in better shape, feel better, look better. And I think selling that story is a lot easier than just saying, oh, you could do certain things better, you can move a little bit better, which that's still a part of the journey. But the big sort of flashing lights is just, oh, wow, I could achieve this sort of dream goal that I've never achieved before, or I never thought I could achieve. And for me, I think that's, from a business standpoint, it's just a lot easier to sell that story, and sort of that dream.
And I guess because, I mean, how long is your packages? How long, like roughly when someone signs up for, I know you didn't like the word transformation, but for a transformation, roughly what are we looking at?
We do things a little bit differently. I think I spoke to you like a few weeks ago about this. And to actually achieve a result, a transformation result, really requires probably around about, it really depends on the customer.
Of course. 8
weeks maybe, 12 weeks, 15, 20 weeks, whatever it might be. So I don't like to put a number on exactly how long this takes, because it's completely dependent on the person. The way we do things in smaller packages. When I say smaller packages, we moved it to 12 sessions, or about 12 sessions every single package. And I think that puts the ball in our court as coaches as well, is that there's easy opportunity for this client to churn if they're not getting what they expect from this business. So there's no complacency. It's like, oh, they got a 50 session package, blah, 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 blah. We'll figure out. You know what I mean? They have 12 sessions to actually achieve something. And that's what I say in the sales consult, or I used to say in the sales consult, is like, we don't do these long packages. We trust every single one of our coach to achieve something substantial, meaningful within this first 12 sessions. And according to what our plan is. If we're not performing, or if you can't stick to this sort of program that is required, then maybe this isn't for you. Is that, you mean, it's like,
12 sessions isn't so bad.
It's like, 12 sessions is a month.
Yeah.
At best. A month or maybe sort of five weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, from the client's perspective, it's like, it's almost like a guarantee. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to part with all this cash. These guys are sort of, you know what I mean? They're saying, you know what I mean? They're not trying to sell me on this huge package to get a discount. And like, which
is how a lot of transformation gyms operate.
I hate it. It's just like, the objective is to achieve a result with this client. You know what I mean? That's why they're here. That's how you build your reputation. if you're trying to sell them like a crazy package just to lock them in, it sets the wrong tone from day one. We're on this journey together. If we're not achieving by end of month one, let's reassess, because this isn't working out. We're here to achieve results. You're here to achieve results. If one of us is not sticking up to our end of the bargain, then we should bin this, or we need to seriously think about how to make this work. So I think that's definitely been one of the better decisions we made, especially from a coach's perspective, is that they could easily lose their clients. They could do a one and done. And to me, that is complete. If that happens to coaches, I'm so livid.
You mean if someone does one package and doesn't renew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
to a bare minimum, you're saying that people you got to renew after that first.
My minimum target is four packages. That's what I tell my guys. I was like, if they don't see value enough to return 4 times, then you're not doing your job properly.
Did you find that in the nature of being, I'm going to say it again, I know this is pissing you off, but a transformation gym, do people come in with shorter timelines thinking that there's going to be a result that's achieved and they're going to move on to the next thing? Or do people stay with you for years?
Oh, we've got people who've been there for years. One of my old clients has done, I don't know how, it's completely mental how many sessions he's done. I looked at the other day.
Yeah.
He's done like 800 to 900 sessions with us.
Wow.
It's completely mental.
And so can I just say, is it less for him, this guy in particular, about, like the crazy transformation now?
Oh yeah, no,
like
people go past that phase.
Okay,
yeah.
good. So that's kind of like, that's the entry for a lot of people, I imagine, and then it turns into something more sustainable.
So you got to find a new normal for these people. When I say new normal, a new fitness level normal.
But I feel like that's a different approach to a lot of transformation gyms.
Yeah, we're definitely not a one and done. Like for me, the key metric of this business is retention.
Which is, I would say, not a key metric for a lot of transformation gyms. It's like create the most savage result in the shortest amount of time possible with an extremely high price point, and get as much of the world population into your gym.
I mean, there's only so many people you can get into the gym.
I agree. And this has been the thing that I've always thought about with transformation gyms, how hard that must be.
There are some people there are some gyms that definitely are happy to just churn through customers. But for me, like I said, the ultimate metric is retention and how long we can keep these customers, because that completely takes the pressure off the acquisition piece. How many people we can get in the door to maintain this level of business, Yeah. So yeah, no, for sure. Maybe people just don't see their business growing past a certain level. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But no, for me, it's all about retention and what the next goal is of the customer. If they've achieved the crazy transformation, okay, what's the next sustainable ongoing path that we can work with them?
I like it.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that was a part of it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for you, Josh?
The future.
I mean, we know you have these targets, and we know those targets are driving you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would like to. I don't know what it could be yet, but I would like to look into a different industry for something else. I think I've learned quite a lot from these two businesses in the health and wellness space. I'm interested in different spaces. Like what that is yet, I'm not sure. But I do feel like they need to fit a certain criteria. When I say certain criteria, I feel like the average order value needs to be a certain level. The retention piece needs to be a certain level. Maybe like some sort of subscription business. I quite like the idea of. I like the idea of repeat customers. Like that for me is huge for everything I do next. But in the short term future, next 5 years or so, just continue in these two businesses. Having a kid then in September, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that dynamic. But yeah, I think work-wise, just continue doing what we're doing and improve and open more markets and just see what this can turn into, really.
Awesome. Josh, you're going to be the very first person to take on our new tradition.
Yeah.
Will you just get ready to remind me there, Al? This is a new tradition that we're going to ask every new guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
The question is, describe your perfect day.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Perfect day. I think there's something about getting up before everybody else for me.
What time do you rise right now?
6. It's not the earliest, but it's definitely not the latest. Get up at 6 every day. I like to be up. I mean, I think the feeling of being up when it's still dark and like seeing the sunrise, like you said, like I think for me that's pretty good. Like that's a really good feeling, knowing that you're the first one to be up and doing something and moving. I feel like that's like sort of an early win in the day. So being up before sunrise, sort of having that whole experience, like having a coffee, whatever it might be.
Are you sitting watching the sunrise?
I mean, maybe standing, not like pondering too much, but I have a nice balcony at home. Like that whole experience is quite good. But yeah, being up before everybody else, sort of having this sort of sunrise experience. And then I think just getting my training out of the way. I think that is something that will never leave me, my training. And it just puts me on a good path for the rest of the day. So doing my training, just having a really good quality session. I mean, obviously, sometimes they can just go down the toilet, but just having a good quality, no distractions. I think that's something the morning gives me as well. No distractions.
Can I just pause you there?
Yeah.
Are there other people in the gym when you're training? Are you someone who likes to train by themselves?
There are other people in the gym. I like to speak to other people when I like to interact with other people and sort of have that sort of human connection in the morning as well, you know.
Me too.
But
Please
not too
continue.
busy. Not too busy.
Not too
you
busy.
know.
Don't want to be waiting for a machine.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Can't do any of that. And then after that, I think breakfast for me, I love that whole time of the day. I love setting myself up with work, my computer, having a nice coffee, having a good breakfast, and just sort of having my own time, putting my headphones on, and just like completely zoning out and doing my own thing. I think for me, that would definitely be in there. And then beyond that, I think just getting outside and being with my wife. We like to hike a lot. I'm just doing my perfect day in Hong Kong, by the way. Hike a lot and sort of just getting out into nature. I think that's definitely important. I feel like I sleep better those nights when I get out and about. I feel like my head clears. I actually think better as well later on in the day if I manage to tick that box. So I think getting out and about before lunch, and then sort of getting a bit of a sweat on, sort of seeing green, and then having lunch somewhere by a beach, maybe. You know what I mean? I think in Hong Kong you got a few spots, like some go-to spots, Lower Cheung Sha Beach, or where it might be, or Puyo, or Repulse Bay, and just like that whole like people watching. You know what I mean? Having some good quality food, seeing people you might know, people watching, just doing it. I mean, this is actually a pretty normal Saturday, Sunday for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, I think definitely, I've definitely lost some of my social life over the last few years because I've prioritized work, and a lot of my sort of core friends have left Hong Kong, and I just haven't really bothered to replace them. Probably should do that soon. But just having some sort of social thing from the afternoon onwards, I think I still enjoy those times with my mates. I usually go on holiday with a few guys, Max, Rod, Della.
Yeah.
This time of the year, usually, and that's where the memories are sort of be created, And I think sort of meeting up with these guys, chatting shit, just having a few drinks, and sort of into the evening, a nice dinner with these guys, and then just wrapping things up and heading home back to the wife and Dashan dog I have at home. He's obviously waiting for me, all happy. I think it's just like very wholesome, sort of ticks all the boxes of social, sort of get out in the greenie, train, have your own time. I think for me, and just be in bed by 9:30, and then just drift off. I think that sounds pretty good.
Day,
sounds like a lovely day. Yeah.
Not too dissimilar, my friend.
Yeah. It actually sounds pretty. I mean, besides the social side of things, it sounds pretty similar to what I do now on a Sunday. But I guess that's the beauty of somewhere like Hong Kong, is that you have all these great things and so many people accessible to you as well. That these things are actually feasible, But for me, I think, sort of that ticks all boxes of work, training, outdoors, social, family. I think for me, that's sort of what I'm looking at. Yeah.
Nice. Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Been great to be here.
Where can people find out more about you
me.
And your businesses?
Me directly. I actually try and keep a low profile.
You do keep a pretty low profile.
Yeah. I don't like to put my face over things at all.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's strange. I feel like there's so many people within our businesses that I don't want to take credit for just the success or sort of the sort of the awareness of that business. But finding out more about me, I actually don't really have any answers for you. I'm happy if you ping me on, if you have for some reason you're interested in pinging me on Instagram, I'm there. But the business, I mean, there's a few publications about us, but obviously we have our sort of online presence as well. But yeah, anybody who's looking to set up shop or looking to scale the business in the health and wellness space, I feel like I have a little bit of an idea of the structure of how that works, and would love to. So I love having these conversations to sort of share ideas, and I think it's important. It's like this space is a big space, and there's room for everybody. I don't think anybody should be hiding sort of strategies or whatever it might be for everybody else. So I love to. I mean, that's my passion now, is just understanding the game of business and how to make things work and grow them. So more than happy to engage with anybody if they fancy pinging me on IG or LinkedIn.
Nice. Well, I'll be taking you up on that offer, my friend.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much for everything, Josh. It's been
pleasure.
very inspiring actually to hear about your stories and what goes into it all, and hearing more about your own journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just keep on crushing it, mate. And I'll be cheering from afar.
Well, hopefully you keep crushing it, but I'm sure you'll be right up there with me, mate. So
Thanks, buddy.
great. Cheers, guys.